grief, I want to talk a little bit about the energies this week and how it is bubbling up with some grief. Hi, I'm Veronica Lee. This is your weekly transformational forecast for the week of June 6th, 2022. So it's not that we're necessarily, wailing or having, these huge emotions coming up filled with intense grief over some significant loss. However, that might be true in your case, but there are these tinges of grief-like feelings that are being poked at and maybe welling up within you during this intense week. In terms of intensity, I would say it's maybe at a 6, 7 in scales of 1 to 10. Not that I ever, run around giving, numbers to our intensity of the energies that are coming through. But just to help you recognize, okay, there's something more going on. There's a little bit of stuff happening that isn't necessarily tangible, but I can feel it, right? And I just want you to recognize those feelings as being valid, even if they've been provoked and kind of, the pressure is on. And so now it's like helping this uncomfortable feeling come up in you, just to recognize the wholeness of all of our emotions. Now, what I want to say to this place of grief is it might show up as maybe just a feeling that's the undercurrent of whatever's going on. Maybe everything is looking fine and your mind is thinking, okay, why am I feeling a little bit disconnected or a little bit sad or a little bit like I'm grieving something when if I look around, everything seems to be fine in my life. It also may show up as really feeling like this need to process and just cry. And during that process of release and grieving, there may be the aha as to what it is you're actually feeling the grief around. When we start to go through these major transformations within ourselves, part of what's happening, and I have been talking about this, it's like, we are really trying to clear the house. We're trying to clear out all these old patterns, things that are no longer us, things that no longer serve us or suit us. What happens when all of this clearing, moves and starts to open up for us, there's the emptiness or what feels like emptiness left behind, and or that feeling of loss, because what we've lost is sort of a chunk or a part of our identity or a feeling or a relationship with our emotions that we were so reliant on. All right. So much of this grief that we are experiencing is also obviously around the things that are happening in the world, and it's hard to not be connected in some way to the grief of the whole, right? Whether it's, grieving the time that we've lost for the past couple of years because we've been in this pandemic, or grieving the loss of children who were shot in the school, or grieving the loss of, real people in our lives, or grieving the loss of maybe, the way things were in some way before all of these abrupt changes have happened, right? What I'm seeing over the next several years is things are going to just keep speeding up in terms of the changes. And so that process of getting used to it and emptying out the bowl, let's say, emptying out what isn't serving us, is going to bring us more in contact with that feeling of grief or of feeling a little bit empty in some way. But just like any process, it becomes a little softer and a little easier because we learn some more, let's say coping skills, but also we start to have more compassion for ourselves. So the key for this particular week is to really honor whatever you might be grieving over. And if you don't fully recognize it and the feelings are there anyway, to just make room for those feelings and to find the self-compassion to hold space for that, for holding space for you exactly as you are, exactly how you're feeling, no matter if it makes sense in the greater picture or, the world out there is telling you to be grateful or, happy, because that's, sort of the go-to place of bypassing other feelings. So not anything in particular, that is happening, but definitely this unveiling of things that aren't serving us, this transformation of old wounds, things that are moving into their new higher, forms of expression, leaving behind this sense of grief that needs to be held in some sacred and honoring way. So we'll see you next week.